Wall Street thinks it's like money in the bank. Banking and financial stocks soar as Congress agrees to overhaul the nation's banking system. The Dow gains 172 points. The Nasdaq index closes up 14. Good evening. I'm Paul Kangas in Miami.
And I'm Susie Garib in New York City. Earnings, and more earnings. And we're only halfway through. We'll take a look at this season's winners and losers. Then an old favorite of gold bugs makes a new appearance in the American marketplace.
Nightly Business Report is brought to you by Compaq, bringing the full benefits of the Internet to people and businesses all over the world so they can find the answers they're looking for. Compaq, better answers. Franklin Templeton, serving investors for over 50 years. Franklin Templeton and Mutual Series, investment products distributed by investment professionals. The financial consultants of A.G. Edwards, committed to making investors comfortable with their investments, with their futures. A.G. Edwards, be comfortable. And is produced in association with Bridge, the global financial information company, providing real-time and historical market data, analysis, and news.
Happy Friday, everyone. Washington gave Wall Street a rally today. Investors like the news from Capitol Hill about the possibility of a bill on banking reform. The stocks of banks, brokerages, and insurance companies surged today and pushed up all the major market averages. As Darren Gersh reports, it looks like the glass is finally breaking on the Glass-Steagall Act.
Finally, Washington lobbyists and lawmakers have been arguing over banking reform for more than 20 years. But early this morning, the White House and Congress reached a final agreement on a new law tearing down Depression-era barriers separating banking, insurance, and securities. Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers says the new rules will help launch the U.S. financial system into the 21st century.
Banks will be better able to compete globally because they'll be able to engage in the full range of activities that their international competitors are permitted to engage in, so they can compete fairly and across the board.
The deal fell into place after Republicans agreed to White House demands that banks meet low-income lending requirements as a condition of expanding into new businesses. Analyst Beth Malone predicts banking reform will bring a new round of mergers and industry consolidation. Malone says the biggest winners will be life insurance companies. Her top picks, ReliaStar, Lincoln National, and Protective Life, made strong gains today. Malone says banks and insurance companies have good reason to come together.
There's a cross-selling opportunity. There's an opportunity to penetrate that customer base with more product. If you can tie the customer to you with more products, that customer becomes more profitable.
In many ways, Congress is merely playing catch-up. The Citicorp Travelers merger is the most famous example of how regulators in the courts have already given banks a limited ability to buy into insurance and securities. Lawmakers say the new legislation will clarify and streamline financial regulation. And despite consumer complaints that mergers may mean less competition, House Banking Committee Chairman Jim Leach predicts more competition as banks, insurance companies, and securities firms rush into each other's businesses.
Throughout America, there's not going to be any place that expansive new services are not going to be provided.
Independent insurance agents are a good example. Now confined to selling automobile and other insurance products, independent insurance agents had long opposed financial services modernization. Now executives of the Industry Trade Association plan to apply for a thrift charter, allowing their members to offer new products.
Now, many of them will be offering CDs, will be offering home equity loans, home mortgages, mutual funds.
Congress is expected to pass banking reform in the next few weeks, but the industry's jockeying for position is just beginning. Darren Gersh, Nightly Business Report, Washington.
The stock market opened broadly higher today in an extension of yesterday afternoon's rebound, which slashed over a 200-point deficit in the Dow Industrial Average to a 94-point closing loss, which was due to a 21-point drop in IBM stock. Bullish confidence got a boost this morning when IBM opened 2 3/4 points higher, and that helped the industrial average post a 102-point gain at 10 a.m. when New York Exchange Breath was 2-1 positive, and the NASDAQ index was up 36 3/4 points. Throughout the morning and into mid-session, the rally gathered momentum with brokerage, insurance, and banking stocks leading the way, as you heard on that news that the White House and Congress had reached agreement on a bank reform bill. By 1:30 p.m., the industrial average was up 146 points, and the NASDAQ index posted a 34-point gain. Further helped along by improving bond prices, stocks continued moving higher in very active afternoon trading. The Dow Industrial Average ended with a gain of 172.56 points, or 1.7%, and stands at 10,470.25. The Dow fell only once and rose 4 times this week for a net overall advance of 450.54 points. That's 4.5%. Today, the NASDAQ Composite finished up 14.57 at 2816.52. In its 42-point trading range, the Composite settled 14.5 points above its worst level of the day, but it lost a lot of ground in the afternoon. Trading volume was down about 30 million shares from yesterday, but still active. The 4th consecutive day, incidentally, over 900 million shares on the big board, and about 400 million more shares of up volume than down volume. That was impressive. The Dow Transport's up just over 51 points. Utility Index up 1.16. The closing tick still fairly bullish at plus 373. Standard & Poor's 500 up just over 18 points, nearly a 9-point run up in the S&P 100. Mid-cap 400 up just over 6.5, and the Bridge Futures Price Index edged up 0.84. New York Stock Exchange Composite up 9.87, over a 5-point gain in the value line. Russell 2000 Small Cap Index up 4.42, and the Bradley-based Wilshire 5000 gained just over 155.5 points. The bond market was very quiet and narrowly mixed today, with many traders staying on the sidelines in the absence of any major economic reports. The sharp rally in the stock market took away any of that flight to safety buying that often boosts bonds. So prices just drifted throughout the session as tax-free and corporate issues ended mostly unchanged, while the Treasury market was mixed. We'll see no change at all in the 5-year note. The 10-year note down a 32nd, and a gain of 5/32 in the bellwether 30-year bond. The Lehman Brothers Long Treasury Bond Index fell 0.90, a mixture indeed. I'll be back shortly to show you where the action was on Wall Street today. Susie?
Well, talk about action, Paul. Most of the action has been about earnings. We are now past the halfway mark in the earnings season. So how's corporate America doing? Here's Erica Miller with the grade so far.
Corporate report cards are coming in with honors for the latest quarter. The S&P 500 companies are expected to turn in the biggest profit gain in over 4 years.
The results are coming in very good. We think everything's on track for earnings gain over last year's third quarter of 22% for the S&P 500.
To put that 22% in perspective, the historical average is 7.5%. Of the companies that have reported so far, most have beat the street. About a quarter hit the target, and 10% fell short. A strong U.S. economy is credited with driving much of the gains, but analysts also point out that many companies have easy comparisons over last year. Energy is expected to be the best performing sector, followed by cyclicals, financials, and tech companies. Only transportation is expected to post a decline, though many of the major consumer giants are expected to do relatively poorly.
Some of the companies that we used to look for strong, consistent, dependable growth, I haven't been able to deliver that in this quarter, and there's some question about whether they are still the kind of growth stocks they were historically.
What is encouraging to many investors is that profit growth next quarter could shape up to be nearly as good.
Clearly, things are going to taper off from here, mainly because of the comparison issue as we tend back toward more normal comparisons. We would expect about 20% growth for the fourth quarter.
So with earnings expected to be good this quarter and next, why is Wall Street on edge? Analysts say much of the good news has already been factored in, and they say investors remain worried about the outlook for interest rates. Erica Miller, Nightly Business Report at the New York Stock Exchange.
Still ahead on Nightly Business Report, our Friday Market Monitor guest. Tonight, he's the Standard & Poor's 500's best friend. Joining us is Randall Ely, president of the Edgar Lomax Company.
The battle between online booksellers is heating up, but this time it's not a price war. Amazon.com is suing BarnesandNoble.com, saying it illegally copied its patented one-click technology on its website. This feature lets repeat users store shipping and billing information. Well, Amazon is seeking a court order to halt use of the shopping feature and unspecified damages. BarnesandNoble.com tells Nightly Business Report that the suit is completely without merit. And Paul, the outcome of this could impact other websites. Analysts say it's pretty easy to copy popular features on different websites.
Amazon.com stock closed at 78 5/8, down 2 1/8. Noble.com was up 1/8 at 18 1/2. And speaking of up, the Dow Jones Industrial Average certainly was 172.5 points up, and for the week 450.5 points to the good. 19 stocks up for every 10 down. Only 55 new highs for the year though, and 240 new lows. Compact Computer on 29 million shares topped the active list, down 5/16, followed by Philip Morris rebounding 1 1/8 after a 3 3/8 point gain or loss yesterday. IBM snapped back almost 3 points after dropping 21 3/4 yesterday. That cost the Dow about 110 points. Waste Management was up 7/16, although the company says its third quarter earnings will be hurt by an accounting review and some changes. America Online down 1 7/8, fifth in volume. Citigroup up 1 1/4 in that strong banking sector. Tyco International up 2.5 points. Nightly Business Report had an upbeat interview with Chairman Kozlowski yesterday on this program. And then Lucent Technology down 5/8. McKesson HBO off 1 9/16, apparently in sympathy with Amerisource, which gave out an earnings warning today. Allstate, one of those insurance companies, moving higher, up 13/16. AT&T down 5/16, but after the close, the FCC approved the company's $10 billion global venture with British Telecom. Donaldson Lufkin, one of the brokerage stocks, up 7 1/8 on that hopes that the banking reform bill passes. J.P. Morgan in there, and that strong group up 7 7/16, and Morgan was the biggest point gainer in the Dow, incidentally. Lincoln National, you heard earlier, up on merger speculation because of the banking reform. Medeva PLC was up 1 5/8. The company says it's in preliminary talks with a third party, which may or may not lead to a merger. And then Symbol Technologies up 5 1/4. Company's third quarter earnings, 33 cents. That was up from 27 cents last year, a penny better than expectations. And Merrill Lynch today upgraded the stock from accumulate to near-term buy. Reliastar Financial, you heard that one mentioned as a possible merger candidate if the banking reform becomes law, which it seems likely. And the same story with Southwest Securities, which was a 4-point gain. Student Loan Corp rose 7 1/8. Citigroup is proposing to acquire the 20% it doesn't already own for $45 a share cash, and in a stock higher than that, and apparently speculation they might sweeten that bid. Benchmark Electronics had a terrible day, plunging 14 points. Third quarter earnings out only 8 cents. The street was estimating 35 cents a share. No mercy for disappointing earnings. And the same story with Aeroflex, which plunged 4 5/16 after the close yesterday. First quarter earnings came out 15 cents, 3 cents below the street estimate, although it was up from 12 cents last year. But the company also said it's witnessing soft bookings. And here we see Amerisource Health down 4 7/16. Company issued a fourth quarter profit warning, as I mentioned. It sees earnings coming in at about 6 cents below the 49-cent per share Wall Street estimate. NASDAQ trading just over a 14.5-point gain in the index today, and for the week it was up 84.69 points, or 3.1%. Volume heavy, 1.175 billion shares, up a touch from yesterday. 21 stocks higher for every 17 lower. Intel topped the active list, up 1 3/4. Intel says on Monday it will introduce a new chip which will take the speed crown back from Advanced Micro Devices. Then, how's this for a gain? Sycamore Networks, which is in optical network products, 7.1 million share IPO offered at 38, opened around apparently 184 or so, and the high of the day 270 7/8, and it closed with a percentage gain of 386%. Microsoft fell 3/8, and then Cisco System down 2 5/8, and a similar loss in Sun Microsystem. Biogen fell 8 3/16. The company halted several trials on its CD40 monoclonal antibody. Apparently had some blood clotting problems with it. Qualcomm was up 1/16. LM Ericsson rose 5 1/4. The company reported third quarter profits up 35% from last year, and it's upbeat on the year 2000 outlook. Inktomi down 17 7/16. Fourth quarter loss reported today, loss of 9 cents a share, and then Yahoo down 3 13/16. Navisite went public today. 5.5 million shares offered at 14, opened at 30, the high of the day 47, then it backed off considerably. Pervasive Software plunging 24 and a 16th. The company said it's bracing for a string of losses. And Ramp Networks lost 52% of its value with that 11.25 point drop. The company sees third quarter loss of about 12 cents a share. That's a bigger loss than expected on the street. The American Exchange Index up 6.52 today, and Cognitronics was up 2.5 points. That might be in anticipation of third quarter earnings, which are due out next week. Some say they might be quite strong. And Ohio Art's up 2 3/8. This is the company that makes Etch-a-Sketch, and its strongest sales season is coming up. And finally, the index shares a real mixture. The diamonds up 1 1/16, but a loss in the NASDAQ 100 of 3/8, and the receipts were up 1 7/32. That's the Wall Street wrap-up. Susie?
Okay, Paul, if you're looking for a different kind of investment, you might want to consider Krugerrands. They're coming back onto the American market after a 15-year absence. The 1-ounce gold coins from South Africa were banned in 1985 when anti-apartheid sanctions were imposed. Those sanctions were lifted 5 years ago, but sales here were never resumed until now. The Rand refinery, which markets the coins, started selling them last week by launching a special millennium issue, the Krugerrand 2000.
Monday, it's being called the Y2K excuse, and we'll tell you what it is.
The earnings stampede continues next week, including reports from Dow Components, AT&T, American Express, 3M, Chevron, and Exxon. Also coming up, our Friday Market Monitor guest is Jeffrey Applegate, Chief Investment Strategist at Lehman Brothers. As for the Bridge News Watch of events, on Monday, existing home sales, Wednesday, durable goods orders, and on Thursday, a first look at third quarter GDP numbers, plus Fed Chairman Greenspan addresses the Business Council.
My Market Monitor guest this week is Randall Ely, president of the Edgar Lomax Company, an institutional money management firm based in Springfield, Virginia, near Washington, D.C. Welcome back, Randall.
Good to see you again, Paul.
What does the stock market's unusually high volatility just recently suggest to you? A market that's trying to establish a level from which to go higher, or one that is reflecting a lot of uncertainty among investors and more likely to head lower?
I think the latter is the case. There is no doubt you've got a lot of conviction on both sides, but it's very difficult to see which way it's going to end up. But given the levels of valuation, I think we're talking about a declining market in the immediate future.
And what about the interest rate scenario? They're up, and are they going to get higher?
No, I think it goes higher. And the reason for that is the Federal Reserve is under pressure to strengthen the dollar and to squeeze out approaching inflation by either raising interest rates or having the stock market go down significantly. So we've got to see equity prices fall or interest rates rise.
Well, if they want to stop the speculation and the market from going through the roof, why not just raise margin requirements? They're only 50% now.
That's right. And in fact, 2 to 3 years ago, I thought the Federal Reserve should raise margin requirements. I must admit, they never asked my opinion on that. But the fact of life is, if they were to raise margin requirements today, you could be talking about a crash scenario, and I think they're trying to engineer a soft landing. And I do agree with that policy, by the way.
And what are the downside parameters? How far down can we go from here?
By definition, most analysts would say a bear market is at least 20% down from peak to bottom. Given the fact that we're talking about an S&P P ratio of 30, price-to-book ratio of 6 to 1, I think we could talk about something of 25 to 30% down, which means the Dow ending somewhere between 8 and 9,000.
Well, you're on a bearish side, but the last time you were with us back in March 26th, you were a little bit cautious then, more than a little cautious, and yet you gave us some great stocks. You only buy Standard & Poor's 500 issues now.
That's right.
We all know that. You gave us Exxon at 71, it's now 76. You gave us Dow Chemical at 91, it's now 117, 118. DuPont at 55, it's now in the mid-60s. And you said get rid of General Motors, it was 72, now it's in about 65. And AT&T was at 55. How dare you sell AT&T, and yet you said do it, and it's now down to 43. Good calls.
Yes, every once in a while we get lucky with our timing, but we were just using a valuation approach again. We would put AT&T back in, for example, and the same thing with GM.
Okay. GM and AT&T back on your buy list.
That's right.
Okay, and how about DuPont and Dow Chemical, Exxon? Are they still with on the buy?
DuPont and Exxon we would take out, but
Okay.
we would stick with the others. We would also remove 3M from the list.
Okay.
And that's simply on a valuation basis. We would continue to hold them.
Now, one of our viewers, Bob Gross in Heartland, Wisconsin, asked, with the recent litigation against tobacco companies, especially Philip Morris, how will they survive? Now, you have liked Philip Morris for a long time. How about now?
And I must admit, I've liked Philip Morris as a stock. I always like to point out I'm not making, not taking any kind of a stand on whether or not smoking is good. In fact, I would love to see everyone stop smoking.
Right.
This stock is amazingly undervalued. We live in a country of laws, and the fact is no one is going to walk in tomorrow and take Philip Morris's money from it.
Okay.
So it's going to be a long-time litigation situation, and we're going to stick with the stock.
All right, now we have another question, and namely, can you explain your criteria for selecting the best stocks from the S&P? And you've done a marvelous job. That question comes from Ken Tom of Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada.
Yes, we use a couple of traditional value measurements that most investors hear about, PE ratios and price-to-book ratios. In a market like this, though, where earnings have grown at a very above-average rate, this year in the teens, something that we normally don't see very much over 6%, we like to look at price to book because book value, which is the assets the companies have, don't move that quickly.
Okay. All right. Good explanation, and we thank you very much. And we'll buy GM back and American Telephone, AT&T back, and any other issue that you like in the S&P 100. We have 10 seconds.
Yes, we would also add Sears.
Okay, Sears Roebuck it is. Thanks very much. It's great to see you again, Randall.
And great to be back, Paul.
Randall Ely of the Edgar Lomax Company.
Recapping today's market action, a nice end to a difficult week. The Dow surged 172 points, and the Nasdaq added 14.5. And please join us at our worldwide website, nbr.com, or on America Online, keyword NBR. And as we've mentioned recently, Nightly Business Report is celebrating 2 decades on the air this year. As part of that observance, each week we're looking back at business and financial news over the last 20 years. Tonight, a look at news of the week of October 18th to the 24th.
October 19th, 1987, Black Monday, the day the stock market crashed. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted 508 points, a loss of 22%. The move prompted Fed Chief Alan Greenspan to switch from an anti-inflation to an anti-recession policy. The strategy helped calm the markets, and within 3 days, the Dow was back up to 2,027. These days, the Dow is trading at the 10,000 level. On October 19, 1995, Wells Fargo launches a $10 billion hostile buyout bid for First Interstate. A takeover battle ensues with First Bank System. Wells Fargo emerges as the winner, but 3 years later, the merger is seen as one of the banking community's most notorious failures. It's October 21, 1986, and IBM has become the second major company in 2 days to exit South Africa. Big Blue joined GM, which pulled out due to growing opposition to apartheid. Other companies follow, putting a crimp in South Africa's economy. 8 years later, the country holds its first all-race election in which Nelson Mandela is elected president. For 20 and Counting, I'm Linda O'Brien.
And that's Nightly Business Report for this Friday, October 22nd. I'm Susie Garob. Have a great weekend, everyone, and I hope you do too, Paul.
And the same to you, Susie. I'm Paul Kangas, wishing all of you the best of goodbyes.
Nightly Business Report is produced in association with Bridge, the global financial information company providing real-time and historical market data, analysis, and news. And is made possible by the financial consultants of A.G. Edwards, committed to making investors comfortable with their investments, with their futures. A.G. Edwards, be comfortable. Franklin Templeton, serving investors for over 50 years. Franklin Templeton and Mutual Series, investment products distributed by investment professionals. Compact, bringing the full benefits of the internet to people and businesses all over the world, so they can find the answers they're looking for. Compact, better answers. And by the financial support of viewers like you.
At 9 tonight, hear about this week's ups and downs with Louis Rukeyser on Wall Street Week. Stay tuned now for the News Hour with Jim Lehrer, here on OPB.
Wall Street can be a confusing place, so if you're new to stocks or bonds, be sure to see the updated version of NBR's classic home video, How Wall Street Works. To order by credit card, call 1-800-535-5864.
Funding for local broadcast of the Nightly Business Report has been provided by viewers like you and by the following. Dane Rauscher Investment Executives are dedicated to serving the investment needs of the Pacific Northwest. Dane Rauscher, Investment Services and Investment Banking. West Coast Bank, offering a full range of financial, trust, and investment services to consumers and small businesses throughout Oregon and Washington. West Coast Bank, where service is our signature.
Hello, I'm Louis Rukeyser, inviting you to join me for the next edition of Wall Street Week, when we'll set this troubled globe to spinning and see what's likely to happen next overseas that may impact our American markets. My guest, Mark Yockey, is a top international fund manager, and he'll be telling us where he sees problems and opportunities as the world turns. Come fly with us.
On OPB, tonight at 9.
Hi, I'm Chris Jusselin, inviting you to the Antiques Roadshow, where you'll see America's leading antiques experts in action.
It was dug up by a dog in a cemetery.
Oh my God!
This week from Durham, North Carolina.
On OPB, Monday at 8.
Forecast tonight for OPB weather: 38 Pendleton, Salem 39, Eugene 39, and North Bend, Coos Bay around 44. Baker City 28 degrees in tonight's forecast. Through the day tomorrow, we're going to see the clouding up along the coast. We're going to expect to see a shower northwest late. Look for sunshine to continue east, clouds to increease west. Mid-60s for the Willamette Valley for highs.
Are you